everyone, and welcome back to the fifth edition of the Tea Break. And as we've been talking about and leading up to over the last few weeks, we're here, we're ready. It starts tomorrow, and we said we'd do it. We got the watch along coming on Saturday. What are we talking about, people? If you've been paying attention and watching our content these last couple of weeks, it's none other than the one you cricket fanatics have all been waiting for. But the review of the Ashes is upon us. I'm looking forward to this series. Ben, how about you?
Yeah, look, it's going to be a fantastic series. Chester, you and I have talked about um, I guess, the rush for tickets and patronage, especially for the Boxing Day Test. That's going to be epic
Yeah,
in this
you
town. But the
enjoy your
series,
one, maybe or 2 days that you're going to that.
I definitely will. But look, Perth being the first venue, it's going to be a little different. Like in Ashes series past, it's usually been starting at the Gabba. So the West Test, as they're calling it. Yeah, I've been yearning for the old whacker pitches from back in the day. I don't think we're going to get that with the drop-in wickets at most of the grounds, if not all the grounds these
Yeah.
days. But look, there's still plenty of great action to come over the next
I wonder why they
five
didn't just play it
tests.
at Lilac Hill like England were playing the Lions out there. Should have just done it there, right? Why,
Uh,
why,
that, that
why should Ashes be a big ground? I vote next time Ashes comes to Australia in 2028 or whenever it will be. Um, like they
well
should
they
just do a regional ground. North Sydney Oval, Lilac Hill, Junction
w-
Oval.
well, I don't know if you call this Grand Regional, but if you remember, the last Ashes series here was sort of COVID struck, and they had that day-night test in
If
Hobart
I remember,
at Bellerive
England
for
were
the final.
absolutely just diabolically crap. Of course,
So in
I
other words,
remember.
you do remember, yeah, yeah. But look, in terms of I'm just looking at some of the head-to-head sort of figures now, and it's basically England won the last test back in 2023 by 49 runs, drawn match prior to that. England won by 3 wickets prior to that, and the first two were won by the Aussies. So,
And we should have won that
um,
series 3-2. The rain at Old Trafford saved you lot.
mhm,
We should have pulled back a 2-0 deficit to win the series 3-2. But anyway,
yeah,
those aren't
mhm,
relevant to me because we're usually a little better in England against Australia. It's in Australia where we need improvement because we haven't won a test there since Sydney in 2011. So,
yeah,
which was
mhm,
also the last time we won a series over here, obviously, when we won it 3-1. So
mhm.
that's the first thing. And I think, to go straight into this Perth test, the big news obviously coming out during the week. I mean, everyone already knew that Pat Cummins was going to be out for this test. It was the big news during the week that Josh Hazelwood has joined him on the sidelines now. So Australia have been severely, well, not severely, but they have been handed a bit of a bit of a wild card essentially in terms of events that could happen for their bowling attack there. Now that Stark and Lyons, the only two available from that kind of established bowling attack, although we all knew what Scott Boland did to England a couple of years ago at the G. I can't remember if you told me if you were at that test, or maybe not that day, but you might have been. I think you said at one of those days, right? I can't remember. Um,
I think so, yeah.
yeah, so he's no stranger to the English batsman. And Brendan Doggett is the other one who's come in officially for this first test. For his official debut, I'm pretty sure this will be. I mean, he was pretty tragic for Brisbane Heat all those years ago in the Big Bash. He's been decent, I guess, since then for the Sydney Thunder, but in red ball cricket is where he's been shining recently. He's been taking stacks of wickets for South Australia over the last couple of seasons. Yeah. How do you think this Australian bowling attack? It's looking like the established ones start line Roland Doggett, and you expect Cameron Green's going to bowl a couple of overs here and there as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you've got your household sort of trusted names as you mentioned there. Doggett, who I might just point out is joining the Renegades for the upcoming Big Bash
oh,
season, and there will be a Big Bash review. Sorry, preview, I should say, coming up in the coming weeks. Once we're sort of really ensconced in this Ashes series,
yeah.
so I think that'll be great for the series. But for him, it's a boyhood dream, and I think the same for Jake Weatherald if he does get picked as well.
No, he has been picked. Yeah, it's official.
Well, if now that he has been
Yeah.
picked, I should say. So, yeah. So look at, Lyon. You know what you're going to get with him and Smith and Mitch Stark and those guys. Look, it's going to be a really great series, and it's really, I guess, is England going to be able to handle that pressure?
Well, that's why I was going to
Um,
ask you specifically if we focus just on the do this department by department as we go through the teams. Let's start with this Australian bowling attack. The lineup of Stark, Boland, Lyon, Doggett, and as I said, Cameron Green's probably going to bowl here or there, you would imagine, during this test. Like, what are your thoughts on how they're going to go at this Optus pitch, which isn't behaving, like a traditional Wacker or Australian pitch? India last summer obviously won the first test of the series, which was even though they went on to lose it 3-1. I know England don't have a Bumrah at their disposal, but it doesn't behave like Australian pitches. It's not just your straight out, just pace on, just pace on, pace on, pace on. There's a little movement that can be offered here, even though the pitch will tend to break up over the days as the test match goes on, as history
yeah.
suggests. I mean, what's your thoughts
hmm
on how Australia's bowling attack's going to go on this deck against England's ferocious batting lineup
Well,
in terms of
hopefully
how
well, but
fast we bat, not in terms of how many runs we score?
yeah, hopefully well. But I mean, I'm a traditionalist in that you want a pitch that offers something for both the bowlers and the batsmen as well. And let's face it, we don't want a, a test in any of these matches that goes for 3 days and then it's especially in Melbourne, for sure. And I'm not just saying that because I want to be able to go to
More than
to
one day.
3 or 4 days of the test. The Monday would be nice to go to as well. But yeah, look, I think for England, they're really gonna their batsmen are really gonna want to perform well against this Aussie pace attack, and Boland has ripped through attacks in previous Test summers as well. We know he's 6 for 7 at the G, not all that long ago. So, but you've got, I see Michael Nice is in the squad as well.
He hasn't been picked though for the
No,
test.
he hasn't. But
Yeah,
if he is during the course of the series, we know what he can offer as
yeah,
well. And from your experience with him in the Big Bash as well, you know what you're going to get from him. So, um, Bo Webster's in there as well. If he's picked, he's been, he's provided quality in previous tests for Australia, so they've got options. Travis Head as a part-time spinner.
and obviously Cummins and Hazelwood will come back into the series either
Yeah.
second or third test. You
Mhm.
know, depends
Yeah.
how much Australia want to push, and I guess it depends on the result in the first test as well. Which I will say, with the fact that both of them are out, this has become a must-win for England. If they're going to get
Yeah.
themselves off to any confident start, they have to go and win this test at
Yeah.
Perth. It's going to
Mhm.
give them the best chance because going 1-0, I know we went 2-0 down last time and came back to almost win the series. It's a
Mhm.
different beast to try and do that in Australia, and even going 1-0 down and then having both Cummins and Hazelwood coming back into the team, it's just going
Yeah.
to be even harder. So, yeah, we need to kind of go full on against this slightly less experienced. I say slightly because Boland ripped us apart last time. Although, in fairness, when we played them in England in 2023, we did go after him a bit and we are pretty much the only team who's gone after Scott Boland in his relatively short Australia career so far. But yeah, Stark's always going to be a threat with the new ball. Lyon's always going to be good, especially in those pitches like Optus offers. That kind of
Once they start to break up a little bit,
the
yeah.
tall release, the higher release point that he offers as a spinner.
Mhm.
It's the same reason I think England should pick Bashir, but we'll get onto England shortly. We're talking about Australia right now. I'm not going to show my
Mhm.
bias and just only talk about England here. For the Australia fans out there, I am going to talk about Australia like we are right now. But yeah, I just think for that Australia pace at bowling attack, I expect, and we all expect England are going to play the way we think they're going to play. I'd like to think we're going to be a little cleverer about it. I don't want us to just try and, go at five and over constantly. Like there will be times where we might have to soak up a bit of pressure, and I want us to try and do
Yeah.
that. But I still
Mhm.
want us to play positive front-footed cricket on the whole, of course. Um, but yeah, I think it's hard. It's always hard to predict cricket, and if we're just focusing on the first test right now, because that's what's in front of us, let alone the series as
Mhm.
a whole, but just on the teams that have been picked for the first test, I think Australia do have a good bowling attack. They're well suited to Australian conditions. They're good at home. Um, I'd expect if England go out to bat first, I know Stokes likes a chase and stuff like that. We're not always the greatest in terms of setting momentums, and we tend to get a bit lost within ourselves when we try and go out there and put totals on the board.
Yeah.
We are much better chasing, but then it's like part of me think like, do we want to go out there and bat first and set the tone, or do we want to risk going out there bowling, having the Australian batsman? Which, in fairness, wouldn't be the worst strategy because Australia's batting has not been good over the last year or so now. But players are coming into this off the back of form, and we'll touch on the batting very shortly. But any last words, like final thoughts, I should say, on that bowling attack specifically for the first test that's ahead of us? Lyon, Stark, Doggett, Boland, and we'll chuck Cam Green in there as well. I think it's primed for them to be good. Boland looks like he's going to be difficult for us to score against, and I always worry with him in Australian conditions. Flashbacks of last series, obviously over here a couple of years ago. Doggett's the one which I think is going to be the interesting one. I haven't really seen a lot of him in Shield cricket. I know you tend to watch a little bit more of Shield cricket than I do. Granted, he plays for South Australia. You're probably not
Hmm.
watching many South Australia games, but
No, no.
yeah, I mean,
Um, yeah, look, I think what will be interesting is the toss, as to, conditions tomorrow. I mean, usually the Perth conditions are hot and dry. So do the Aussies, assuming they win the toss, do they do they send the English in and bowl first, and then I guess from there, can they have them in trouble after the first session? Once we get to lunch, which by Melbourne time would be looking at what are we thinking?
three
Like
o'clock,
4 o'clock,
three, 3:30.
three, 3:30, four
Yeah,
o'clock. Yeah. Would England potentially be a few down by then? We don't know, but that's the other thing as well. And vice versa, if England win the toss, what will they do? Um, so
I
then,
mean, it's hard to put yourself in the head of Stokes. It really is. Logic dictates that we're probably going to want to bowl first if we win the toss. As is in a weird way, even though I think Australia are probably going to bat first if they win the toss, but part of me wouldn't be surprised if they went out and bowled first, knowing that they have a stronger bowling attack than they have a batting lineup. A potential of risking themselves being 3, 4, even 5 down by lunch potentially. So it's a really hard one to call this one, to be honest.
yeah.
You know, England's bowling attack is far less experience than what we've taken over here in the past. Archer's never
Hmm.
played a test match in Australia. Wood has. Wood was actually really good, obviously, last time in Australia. I'll use this as a chance to segue into England's bowling attack. So yeah, if we're talking about our bowling attack, we've got not 11 like Australia, but 12 have been confirmed for this test. The one thing I'm not quite sure is, does Bashir play or does he not? Personally, I want him to, because if Australia are playing Lyon and Lyon's decent, I know Bashir is not even close right now to the level of spinner Nathan Lyon is, obviously, but he
Yeah.
has the height, and the reason England have been picking him in a lot of their Test matches the last couple of years now is because it almost seems like we're priming him to be that role in an away Ashes series. So I'll be a little annoyed if we don't play him. I kind of just want him to play, just because it might just, we never know how it might go. I think it's ballsy going into this test with, four seamers, and just, 4 5 seamers, I should say, including Ben Stokes, and throwing
Hmm.
the overs of spin to Joe Root, essentially, because Will Jacks hasn't even been picked in this 12. So I think if we pick
Yeah.
Bashir in this 12, we have to play him in the 11. So I'm going to go off mine. Bashir. Archer's probably going to play, and I want him to play. Wood has passed the fitness test because he had a little scare in the Lions game with his hamstring pulled up, and he only bowled 8 overs or so, I believe, across the match. So it's a little bit of a worry. He hadn't played much cricket before that, but he had a good series in England against Australia in 2023, and and he was probably our best bowler when we were last over here in 21-22. And so he does work. We know he can bowl in Australian conditions, so he should play. And then the other one, and then Stokes will obviously play and make up some, bowl a lot of overs like he likes to. And then it just comes down, in my opinion, to the Atkinson Cast debate. Is it
Hmm.
Cast or Atkinson? Both can bat. Cast offers a little bit more with the bat, but I think Atkinson offers a bit more with the ball. And I'm just thinking a lot of the things that these pundits and journalists and so on, and ex players and so on, are saying about this Optus pitch, if it's not like a whacker pitch, maybe I'm thinking more on Gus Atkinson, someone who's a little more technical with with the deliveries and stuff like that, and not just so
Yeah,
much a hit the pitch type of bowler that Bryden Cast tends to be. So yeah, my
yeah,
pick would be Atkinson, Wood, Archer, Bashir, and then obviously Stokes as well.
yeah, and
Yeah,
certainly from a I guess an England bowling point of view, one thing that there definitely will be in this wicket over in Perth is bounce. So certainly, you talk about Atkinson and Cast, I guess, whoever's going to be able to sort of get that bounce certainly off the wicket, but in terms of length as well, um, is going to be a factor as well. I mean, yes, you won't have probably those overcast conditions that are going to be more conducive to swing bowlers, but bounce is certainly something that you will get, I think, out of this wicket. So I guess and you're probably more across the England sort of lineup and particularly the bowlers than I am, but when you have a discussion about which one of those two guys is going to be able to um, be ahead in terms of the overall lineup, bounce and carry is going to be one of those factors, I think, certainly from a pace bowling point of view. And then, yeah, as you said, you've got the spin. Is it going to be Bashir? Over a guy like Jax, I think you were saying. So,
well, he didn't get
uh,
picked for the squad, Jack. So, and
yeah,
I didn't think he would, to be honest.
yeah. And then, like you said, you've got Joe Root who, um, can bowl those part-time overs. And I am an advocate for the part-time bowlers association. So, um, yeah. So that's certainly an option for them as well if things for England perhaps aren't going too well as far as wickets taken goes.
Yeah, I think that's, as I said, that's my preferred one. I don't want us to risk it and just go with Cast, Atkinson, Archer, Wood, Stokes, and then just give the spin overs to Root. It didn't work in the Lions game, and it's probably not going to work in a proper full-on Ashes game. That being said, going back to what I was saying before, um, the difference that we have between our attacks is level of experience, because Stark, Lyon, they've played countless amounts of games in Australia, Test cricket in Australia. Obviously, Boland's played his fair share. Doggett obviously hasn't because this will be his debut, but he's played a lot of Shield cricket over here, obviously. Um, so what I was saying before is of that bowling attack, even if it's Castle, Atkinson, or any combination of what we could put out there. The one worrying thing about it is Wood is the only one who's actually Wood and Stokes, but of the actual proper bowling, I'm going to count Stokes as a part of this bowling attack. So yeah, Wood and Stokes are the only ones in that bowling attack who've bowled overs in Australia in Test cricket. Archer's never come to an away Ashes series. He was injured in 21-22 when we were last here, so he missed out on the whole tour.
Hmm.
Atkinson came into the team literally only last year, sorry, so he hasn't even played Test cricket against Australia yet. Same with Bryden Cass. Same with Shoaib Bashir. All three of them came into the team after the 2023 Ashes series. So there's a lot of inexperience there when it comes around the bowling attack. And even if you look beyond that in the rest of our squad for the rest of this series, with Matty Potts, another name in there who's it could be part of the bowling attack at some point later in the series, depending on fitness and how we manage minutes for people like Archer and Wood with the injury concerns and stuff that they're always around for both of them. You
Hmm.
know, and Josh Tongue as well. Josh Tongue has played one or two Test matches, I think, against Australia in 2023, but again, never played Test matches in Australia. And Matty Potts has never played Test cricket against Australia, and again, never played Test matches in Australia. So there's a huge cloud of complete inexperience, you could call it, lingering over this English bowling attack. I still think we built this bowling attack just purposefully for this Ashes, or not only for this Ashes, but this was the big one that we've been, you know, leading up to over the last couple of years now, essentially, that we've been building a team ready for. So I hope we don't go out there and completely disappoint. I'd like to think it's going to be a competitive series. We'll move on to the next talking point now as we go back to Australia and kind of bring
Yeah.
up the top seven now of each team, and we'll start with Australia's because that's where the competitiveness comes in for me, because Australia's top seven has been as weak as it's ever been in for a while now, especially for the last year or so now. Obviously, Marnus has come back into the team after going away playing some Shield cricket for the good old mighty Queensland. Um, and he's well and truly in form with bags of runs in first class and list A
Well, I
cricket
was
so
I was
far.
just going to, I was just going to say, speaking of Marnus, could he be a possible bowling option? I did see in the Shield. Was it last week? He did take a wicket and his celebration was actually quite good. So if there's a couple of overs that need to be filled in before lunch or tea, I think Marnus is your is the man. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and they've got, as I said, they've got their options as well. I mean, Travis Head, is capable of bowling a few overs if need be. Um, but in terms of from a batting perspective, Smith is there.
Well,
Um,
he is the captain, and I'm not going to go into a full-on rant about why I think it's ridiculous that Steve Smith is still captaining Australia after what happened back in 2018, and the fact that this isn't even his first time captaining the side. The fact that he literally captained at Adelaide against us in 21-22, like. But I'm not going to go into a full rant about my thoughts about the way Cricket Australia have handled things post Sandpaper Gate. We'll be here for another 5 hours otherwise. Um, but no,
I
yeah,
think the
he has been
I
in
have a
very good form for New South Wales when,
yeah.
leading up to this. Marnus has been great form for Queensland. Jake Weatherall's been called up based off the fact that, he's been in amazing form this season, especially last season as well for South Australia in the Shield as well. Sam Constance got dropped. I think we could all see that coming though. He had a really awful time of it over in the Caribbean. Granted, it's not an easy place for him to go and get runs, and Cricket Australia probably haven't handled the way they brought him into the team in the best of fashion, and he's probably not done as an Australia player, but I think, yeah, no one was surprised to find out he wasn't going to play a part in this Ashes series. I mean, he could still later in the series, but even then it doesn't look likely. So, yeah, Australia's 11. I will quickly read it out. For those who are listening and yourself, Ben, if you've had a chance to see it yet, because I know you've been pretty busy today.
Hmm.
Um, if I just get it up here. So yeah, the confirmed 11 for the Test starting tomorrow is Kawaja, Weatherall, Marnus, Steve Smith, Travis Head, Cameron Green, Alex Carey, Stark, Boland, Lyon, Doggett. It's the confirmed 11. So yeah, I think Weatherall was his sixth different opening partner since David
Partner,
Warner
yeah.
retired a couple of years ago. So there is,
Hmm.
it didn't work out for Sam Constance, didn't work out for McSweeney, although he's not really an opener. I know they tried it with Head in Sri Lanka last year or earlier this year or whenever it was. That didn't work. Marnus tried it for a bit. That's why he got dropped. That didn't work. There was Smith tried it before that, didn't like a year or two ago. Like that didn't work. You know, it seems to be like this never-ending conveyor belt. And let's not forget, Kawadra himself is lean on runs, and he's almost 39 years old. You know, if
Is it
England are
really?
going to
I
target
didn't know that. There
anything,
you
not
go.
only in this Perth
Yeah,
Test but this series, is that completely frail Australian top order.
it is yeah, it is certainly vulnerable. But a really niche fact that I was actually thinking about doing when I was doing the preparation for this
Mm.
is that I think it might be the first time in quite a while. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's a player from each state represented in the 11 or in the actual squad.
If that's true, that is
Um,
actually mental. I've got to
I
check
think it.
this. Right,
I'm
Kawaja,
pretty sure it
Queensland,
actually is.
Weatherall, South Australia, Marnus,
No, no,
Queensland,
well,
Smith.
Tasmania.
Yeah,
Weather all
hold on, I'm just
Tasmania.
checking.
Yeah,
Oh, you mean the squad, not the 11?
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that's Bob Webster in it, yeah. So it'd be Kawaja.
Sorry, just to clarify. Weather all plays for Tasmania
Oh, sorry,
now, so
Tasmania.
that's
Sorry, yeah, not South
yeah.
Australia.
So
Yeah,
it
you're
might
right,
actually
yeah.
be in the 11. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, hang on. There's 11. We've got Kawaja, Queensland, Weatherall, Tasmania, Marnus, Queensland, Smith, New South Wales, Head, South Australia, Green, WA, Carey, South Australia, Stark, New South Wales, Boland, Victoria, Lyon, New South Wales, Doggett, South Wales. Yeah, that's all of them. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
This is why we do this podcast, folks,
Yeah.
for little random tidbits that might actually be little nuggets of wisdom like this. No, it was actually something like I was thinking about it last night, just sort of doing a bit of preparation, thinking, wow, that's actually. And I sort of thought of it from a squad point of view. I thought maybe for the 11 it might actually, because I wasn't sure if Green would be selected, but there you go. So, and I'll just take this moment to point out, Chester, you'll agree with me on this. If you're liking the content
Oh,
so
yes, I
far,
was literally about to do it
please
myself. Go for
like
it,
and
Ben.
subscribe. Throw us a follow on Instagram. We've got our watch along on Saturday, but for our football fans, we've also got our Bundesliga A-League review on Monday, Tuesday. So,
Yeah,
we enjoy bringing this content to you. It's always good having a chat about this sort of stuff. But yeah, look, I thought that was a really interesting fact. I don't know when the last time that actually happened was because Tassie are so sort of underrepresented, I guess,
yeah,
in Test cricket. So there you go,
yeah,
wild.
yeah. There you go. Yeah, wild, right? Yeah. That's what I mean. I don't think it's ever going to be a case that England put out a Test 11, let alone a squad. Sorry, a squad, let alone an 11, where every single county is represented in the county championship. Because that would not be possible. Because if we're counting both divisions, there's way more than you could possibly have in a squad. Um, but yeah, maybe the first division though. There's only 10. There's 10 counties in the first division, so that could be possible. Wonder if that's ever happened. But yeah, anyway, without getting sidetracked about this too much longer. But yeah, back to Australia's batting. Yeah, it's frail because of the fact, Marnus is coming back in off the back of form. Next time away is probably going to have helped him. Smith is back in form. Since moving back to four, he's been a lot more back at home in that comfortable position of him because it just of his sorry because it just we could all see it just was not working at opening. Head's always a shoe in at five, and then Carey at six, seven, and then Green's gone back to six after spending some time at three recently, which also didn't really work for him. Um, but it's really that top order. It's just how quick can England get through the first 2 to 3 wickets, and how early can they get Smith and then possibly Head in to put them under pressure. Depends on that. Is this form for Marnus at the beginning of the Shield and One Day Cup? You know, this year is that like a sign of things to come in the Ashes, or is it just a complete it's domestic cricket is not as difficult as international Test cricket. He's still going to struggle. We don't like. There's so many unknowns in cricket, like as always, right? It's just one of those things we just have to basically go off face value. But yeah, any other thoughts of yours on Australia's top seven?
Look, yeah, they'll want to fire early and really make a statement. I think. Yeah, particularly like I said, with the interest in this particular series and what happened over in England. We probably don't need to cover that too much, but we all know what happened in the doors of the Lord's dressing room after that unfortunate, or maybe for the Aussies, fortunate Bairstow incident. Um, but look, I think yeah, they'll want to make a statement, and I guess from their point of view, they'll want to get to Christmas, in the ascendancy that England won't want that to happen, but that's going to be the really fascinating thing for me is what will there still be to play for come Boxing Day? When we get to the fourth test. And I guess that's going to be key for what happens in this match starting tomorrow is, all sorts of different things like, who wins the toss, what do they do, how will the first session look, how will we be sort of poised after after day two when we do our watch along, and then, days three and four. Um, and then you've got, Brisbane and Adelaide. I can't remember exactly what order they're in, but you've got a day-night test thrown in there as well, and that also throws up its own little bits and pieces as well with the pink ball. So yeah, there's all sorts of really interesting sort of factors as far as not just in this match itself, but the series overall.
Yeah,
And each venue has its little different perks, right? So
yeah.
yeah.
I was just going to say, like, on the whole Australia batting thing, across the series as a whole, Kawaja's lean runs, Marnus, dropped because of lean runs and now back in the form off the back of some good form, back in the team, sorry, off the back of some good form. Apparently, he's gone away. He's been told to be a little more aggressive and proactive in his batting because we all know Marnus was being quite defensive and quite kind of tepid almost at times at the crease up until that Test Championship final when he got drops after Australia lost it. And then Weatherald opening the batting alongside Khawaja. Will it help Khawaja a bit now that he has someone who's a little more experienced at Constance and someone who's a little more in the kind of mould of a David Warner, who's going to be a little more proactive with
Hmm.
the new ball, which will allow Khawaja to kind of bed in a bit and play the innings he usually likes to
Get
play.
himself
Yeah,
in. Yeah,
the kind
yeah.
of more kind of patient sort of innings he's usually known for playing. Will Weatherald sort of more kind of proactive style help it? help him kind of do it because we know, we know the innings Smith is going to play most times. We know the way he's going to play, and he's going to be good as you imagine. As an England fan, that's annoying, but I have to admit it. And then we know how Head's going to come out and be the, I guess you could say, the one Bazballer of this entire Australian batting lineup
Yeah,
at five. And then obviously Smith, Green's right back at six. Is he going to look a little more solid at six? I mean, he was okay at times at three, but I think, he's always looked better at six, and that's probably going to be his best position. And then, Carey's, his form's been up and down, I guess you could say, of late, but he's still good for a couple of runs. The big thing I will say, especially about this first test, is their tail is looking a lot longer because Stark's up as high as 8 now, and then you've literally got Boland, Lyon, Doggett, 9, 10, 11. So, if England do make inroads relatively frequently and early, there is a chance we could potentially blow through that tail quite quickly as well.
yeah,
It just kind of depends on the proceedings and how the top seven, so
exactly.
to speak, go. Um,
Yeah, that's what I was just saying before about like how things sort of progress session by session. I mean, especially for you guys, you're going to want to get into that tail, that extended tail, reasonably sort of early. You don't want to be bowling for a day and a half, and Australia's only 5 down, and you get to Carey at that point. He's, as we said, capable of certainly making runs on his own accord. So that'll be interesting within itself as well.
yeah,
Because that's certainly a way that, I mean, you guys will possibly be able to gain some control within the match, as well as how quickly you can get into that longer tail.
yeah, and we'll move swiftly on to England's top seven. Obviously, we picked a 12, not an 11, but I think any England fan watching this, or probably non-England fan watching, though, there's no way the top seven's changing unless there's last-minute injuries, and hopefully, touch wood, hopefully there's none. The England top seven is probably going to be Crawley, Duckett, Pope, Root, Brook, Stokes, Smith. I mean, I think we're both in agreement there. That's definitely just been a given. And I think as an England fan, that's what makes me most confident about this series going into it. Is this is the first time in quite a while we've gone into an Ashes series away from home, specifically, where we excuse me, where we know exactly what our top seven is going to be. And I think that's so key in a cricket team. If you're set on the top seven and you're confident that every single one of those seven batsmen know the role they're going to play for the team, know the way they're going to do it, and know everything that's kind of going, it kind of all flows. That's the big confident factor. Crawley looked somewhat impressive amongst a pretty diabolical England batting lineup last time we were over here. Duckett's obviously never played a test match in Australia against Australia. But he did look pretty good in the English series in 2023. Root, we all know what we're going to get with Pope, so forget about that. Ollie Pope at three, that was the one thing. Was it going to be Bethel? Was it going to be Pope? I think we were always going to start with Pope as a series and see how it went on. His 100 in the Lions game, in the warm-up game, has probably completely solidified the fact that he's batting at three, and that's why he's going to be in this test, at least, and probably the one after as well at the Gabba, I'd
Hmm.
imagine. Um, the one, apparently there's been murmurings that he's worked on his technique, so hopefully this could be a big summer of runs for Ollie Pope, which would be great for our part. Root at four,
Absolutely.
just like Smith at four with Australia, Root at four with England, you completely know what you're going to get. The one thing we will touch on, though, is this going to be the time when he finally gets his away Ashes century? That's the big question because he's done everything in his illustrious career. All-time second highest Test run scorer. Now, of course, after the magical summer of runs he had in the India series back in England. But the question is he finally going to get that Ashes 100 in Australia? Because that's the one thing he's yet to do. And it just feels like this might be the perfect time for him to do it this series. Will it be in Perth? That's the thing. Will it even be in Perth, or will it be at some point later in the series? I'm going to put my money on him and hope and say, I'm backing you, Joe. You're going to get your Ashes ton in Australia at the Optus. And if we go into bat tomorrow, you're going to get it tomorrow, depending on what the situation. It may be on day two, depending on how many down we are when he comes to the crease and what the score is. But I'm backing him to get it at the Optus tomorrow, not tomorrow, but this test. I'm backing him to get it at the Optus in
The
this.
goalposts are just
Yeah,
slowly sort of shifting. Look, I mean, the fact of the matter is, he's got, with any luck, he's got 10 opportunities to to get it. I mean, no pressure on him or anything else, but
Hopefully less,
there
because that means we don't have. That means we're making you guys follow on, or we're winning
that's
games by innings and stuff like that.
that's what I was just saying. But one guy I just wanted to get your opinion on. He's not in the 11, but he's in the squad, and he's a guy that I've sort of watched pretty regularly with my support of the Renegades, and that's Jacob Bethel. I mean,
Yeah.
is he a sort of a realistic chance potentially of actually getting a Guernsey as the series
See,
goes
it's
on because he's a capable batsman and can play shots and
he's,
can score quickly.
the thing about him. He's one of these completely not left field, but one of these bizarre picks that this England setup have been doing recently, which I've got no problem with, by the way. I absolutely love the selection of Rob Key and co sometimes, but like he's not really. If you look at his stats, I don't know if you got him up in front of you on ESPN Cricket Info, but if you want to quickly have a look at his stats, he doesn't have much first class cricket in his career to really fall off behind, and he's meant to be the one batting at three if it's not really going to work out long term going forward for Pope. Right now,
Hmm.
Pope has got that spot for his own, and it's fair to say he's kind of done well enough to earn it. But like, he's captained the white ball side. He's captained the white ball side in recent times, despite having limited experience. He got a century in the one day series against South Africa. That was his first ever professional cricket century, mind you, by the
Hmm.
way. Like
Yeah.
top level professional cricket century. That was the first time he's ever done it. For this player
Hmm.
that we're going to hang our hat on potentially moving forward to bat three. Now, obviously, when I say hang our hat on, he might not come into the team and be that number three for another two, maybe 3 or even 4 years, because he's only 21 still. Let's not forget. Right, and Pope's not completely like Pope's only 30 or 31 himself, so he's still got quite a few years in front of him as well. Right, so we do have a younger side overall compared to the two sides if we're comparing age. But yeah, about the Bethel thing, I've got nothing against him. I think he's an incredibly exciting cricketer. Obviously, he doesn't only offer that aggressive bat, but offers some great spin bowling at times as well. Let's
Hmm.
not forget about that. That's one thing he definitely has over Pope: his ability to bowl a few as well.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the question is like we've been seeing a limited sample space of him so far in his England Test career. He's had I think 250s, a very notable 90 odd against New
90,
Zealand.
96
Yeah,
was high score.
96. Yeah,
Yeah.
away in New Zealand a couple of years ago or
Hmm.
2024. Yeah, it was like late last year he got it. And then, but he hadn't played. Then he came out of the team, and then he had one game against India in the last test of the summer series, where he didn't really do an awful lot. But I kind of thought he was thrown into the deep end. Then I'm kind of glad they haven't picked him for at least this first test because I think again that would be kind of throwing him in the deep end. He's
Hmm.
one for the future. That's what I'll say. I just don't think he's ready for the here and now to just go start every game or every other game and try and make an impact. It's about kind of picking him and choosing him. If we would, like next time we go to the subcontinent, I'd like him to play because, as I said, the spin options he offers. He's a very handy spin bowler. So if it's not working for him with the bat, then he's always got a chance of making an impact with the ball as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, right now in the here and now, Pope is the one I think to go forward at three. Bethel's one for the future. Me, like a lot of other England fans, find him exciting, an exciting young talent, but he's just not quite the finished article or even ready yet. So, yeah,
No, no, and like you said, he's 21, amazing potential, and as I said, he's sort of applied his craft at the Renegades. So, and I can see he's yeah, had some decent high score of 110 in ODIs. So,
yeah,
he's sort of applied his trade in those two shorter formats of the game. But can that correlate to more test exposure? He's definitely going to have to push a guy like Pope, as you said, out. If it's an injury thing, perhaps I think that might be the only way
form
he gets
maybe
it.
because Pope typically starts series well and then kind of fades as they go on. But then knowing
Yeah, or
England,
form. Yeah.
but the thing is also knowing England. It's been a few. There's been many series where he's done this, and we've kept him in the team. I he's in the squad, but maybe yeah. I find it hard to believe unless things are going so well and we've wrapped up the series by Sydney, then he'll probably play. But I think as long as things are on the line, which I imagine they're going to be throughout most of this series, I expect Pope is still going to play ahead of him. And I don't think we're going to put him further down because if it's a question of backing someone further down who offers the all-round option with a bit of spin bowling, then Will Jacks is probably still going to get in ahead of him there.
Yeah.
But to move on with the rest of the England top seven with the last three players I mentioned, we've got Harry Brook at five, which everyone's talking about is kind of the Brook versus Head bat off at five for each side. The two proper. I mean, England like to play aggressive, but let's remember those are two proper aggressive players of both sides. You know, the one question I have about Brook, and the one worry I think a lot of other England fans and pundits alike will probably have about Brook is, the way he likes to play, especially in Test cricket, and when bowlers go quite short on him and offer him those bouncers and kind of tempt him into those kind of hook shots, those pulled shots up high above his shoulders in line with his head. They often work in England because of the slightly smaller pitches. You guys typically have some quite big pitches across the country here in Australia. Is that going to be a bit of an undoing for him? Is the big question. This
Yeah,
is the one place he's yet to really do it in Test cricket because, like a lot of the team I've mentioned already, he's another one who hasn't played Test cricket in Australia yet in his career. So that's another person there with completely no experience heading into this series for our lineup. You know,
yeah, yeah. I
it's a
mean,
big series for him as well. I think as well the
yeah,
captaincy of the white
yeah,
ball side.
hmm
You know, coming into it, he's seen a more of a somewhat I could use a senior figurehead more in this England setup now than he was
yeah,
before.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and then
yeah,
we'll round off the top six, seven. Sorry, with England, we've got the captain Stokes at six. You get bat and ball with him. He's Stokes. He's a warrior. Of course, you always get that sort of stuff with him. And then, of course, Jamie Smith at seven, our effervescent batsman, wicket-keeper batsman, who's really starting to come in to as a player of his own. He's been pretty solid for Surrey in the county championship this season just gone. He had a good summer, I think, for England. Fantastic 100 against India at I can't remember if it was Edgbaston. Yeah, at Edgbaston with that big partnership with Harry Brook. Again, another player who hasn't played Test cricket in Australia though. That's another one for the inexperienced ranks. But yeah, that basically rounds out our top seven. I think obviously on paper and of recent form over the last year or so, it's a no-brainer that we have the better batting lineup in terms of numbers that they're putting up. It's just can they do it on Australian pitches against Australian bowlers in Australian conditions is what it really comes down to, don't you think?
I was just going to say that the last thing I was just going to say on Brook was he's got limited sort of exposure to Aussie pitchers, having played with the Hurricanes in the BBL, just the
Yeah,
7 matches. But I guess that sort of minimal experience is probably better than none. But like you said with those sort of guys, look, they'll add to what England can bring. It's just going to be a matter of how often can they actually produce that on the sort of wickets that these Aussie grounds will provide, and that's just the unknown as yet, and that's going to be a really fascinating thing to see
yeah,
as the series wears on.
yeah. Exactly. So yeah, that's our rundown of the teams. I mean, obviously that's all we've really got because Australia were going to announce their team, test by test, and their squad could change. I know Josh Inglis's in the squad, Michael Neesig you mentioned earlier is in the squad, Bo Webster's in the squad. There's a couple of other names like I mentioned, but that doesn't mean they're always going to be in the squad. It's kind of like a just before the test sort of thing, always for the home side. And as for England, we've got a couple of other names as I've already mentioned. We've got Matty Potts in there. We've got sorry, excuse me. We got Matty Potts in there. We got Jacob Bethel in there. Will Jacks is another name who's floating around the squad as well. So there's other players who could come into the side as the series goes on. But yeah, I think you know, dare we do the thing that everyone wants us to do, especially when it comes to cricket and how difficult it is. Let's just do some predictions for the sake of it. Why not, eh?
Uh, all right. Well,
Don't
I,
worry, I'm
I
not going to ask you to predict how many runs are going to be scored off the first over or anything ridiculous like that. Um, let's start bigger picture first. Let's start. No, we'll go small one without bigger picture. First, we'll go as who's winning this test, this Perth test, in your opinion. Who do you think's winning it?
I think it's going to be Australia. I mean, I think we saw what happened with England in the warm up game just recently, um, where they did struggle. And I think again it comes back to those quintessential Perth conditions. The dry heat. Um, that Fremantle Dr. Breeze sort of coming in eventually later in the day. Um, and I think acclimatisation for any test side, not so much England. I mean, not just England, but all sides that travel to Optus, do take a bit of time to acclimatise. And from a test point of view, I think Australia would be wanting to hit the ground running. Definitely. So that's my prediction for this match. I know you've probably got a different view to mine, but
I do. I'm not just going to blindly say, "Oh, England are going to
There's a
win this
surprise.
first test." No,
Yeah.
I have reasons to back it up as to why I think we will. So yeah, I do think we are going to win the first test. Sorry, you Aussie fans. Mainly a couple of reasons why. First big reason is if you look back over the series that we've had since Stokes and McCollum took over, there's not many series we've had where we haven't actually won the first test, regardless of the actual result of the series and whether we've gone on to won the series itself. Most of the series we've had under McCollum and Stokes, we've actually won the first test, which is, think back to India away from home, well, India in the summer, we won the first test. New Zealand last year, we won the first test. Pakistan last year, we won the first test. Obviously, the previous Ashes in England, we didn't. That's the one example. That's the one, you know, outlier, I guess you could say. India away, before the when we lost 4-1, we still won the first test, even though we went on to lose the series 4-1. We still were 1-0 up in that. So there's been a lot of time. South Africa at home in the first year of McCollum Stokes won the first test in that. New Zealand at home, same time, won the first test in that. There's and then Pakistan away as well that time, won the first test in that. West Indies last year, Sri Lanka last year, won both of those first tests as well. So even though we did win both those series, the point stands in these test series, even though we haven't always had favourable results and we get to win a 5 match series under McCollum and Stokes, overall, we have tended to win the first tests in them. But then you could also look at that and say, well, the one time you didn't was against Australia, so what do you fucking know, you pommy bastard. Um, no, yeah, but I got to back my boys. Come on, England. Stokes, sorry. Cummins and Hazelwood out. This is a chance to go 1-0 up and put some proper pressure on Australia. Yeah, I back us to win the first test and go 1-0 up in the series. Which now will bring us nicely onto the second prediction I think we should do because everyone's going to love it if we do. Who do you think is going to be the leading run scorer in this series, Ben?
That's a really good question. Phew, that's a yeah. I probably would say I'm going to go out on a limb here because that's what we
Hmm.
all like with someone sort of left field. Um, I'm going to say Travis Head.
Okay, fair enough. I can
Just
see your reason. Yeah.
yeah, I was going to go with Smith, but that's pretty obvious, and I think just Head's got pardon the pun runs on the board. As far as and especially if Australia's in a spot of bother, he can come in and you sort of know that he'll be a cool head and you can score quickly, but also some pile runs on. I think yeah, he's got the capability for um, to be that leading run scorer. What about you?
Yeah. A lot of people are going to be England is going to pick an England player here. I will pick an England player, but not to be run score. I think an Australian's going to lead leading run score. That doesn't mean I think Australia are going to win the series, mind you. I think Marnus is actually going to be the leading run scorer. I'm kind of buying into this form that he's been in, heading into the Ashes. As much as it pains me to say as an England fan, but as a Brisbane Heat fan, as a
I was
Queensland
just going to
fan,
say, is that a little bit of the
yeah.
Brisbane Heat factor in there as well?
Yeah, one thing I'll say, like, regardless of how good Smith is, I'm never ever going to predict him to be the top run scorer. I'll, I'll take the bullet in the fact that, like, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong here. If Smith is the top run scorer, then fair enough, fair play to you, Steve.
Hmm.
You deserve it, but I'm not ever going to call him and predict him to be. I'm never going to predict him to be the leading run scorer. But yeah, I think Marnus is going to be the leading run scorer. I think Crawley will be our leading run scorer, but I don't think he's going to be the overall leading run scorer. I think it will be Marnus. As much as I want to back one of our boys, I think overall, again, I haven't given my prediction who's going to win the series yet, but I think Marnus will be the leading run scorer. What about leading wicket taker, Ben?
I can't go past Victoria's man, that the pride of Victoria, Scotty Boland. I think that's just you know he's in superb form, and I think he's just going to continue that on. We'll get to the MCG on Boxing Day, and they'll have the Scott Boland statue at the back there, ready to go. Bay 13, who I did hear is going to be home of the Barmy Army for that particular match, and that's caused a bit of outrage as well. I think he's going to be the leading wicket taker for obvious reasons. And just on a side note, he's a great Saints supporter as well. So,
Oh my god.
you've got your Brisbane Heat bias. I've got that. But look, his record in Test matches for Australia in more recent times speaks for itself, and
Surprised
I
you
think
didn't say
that's
Maxi was going to be the leading run scorer if you're going down the Saints
what can,
supporters route.
considering he's not even anywhere near the squad, and he plays for the Melbourne Stars, so I can't endorse him from that regard, as you well know. So, but I think it's got to be Boland really,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a fascinating watch as to 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 him backing himself in to stay in the squad for the whole series. I mean, he's especially with Hazelwood being out, can Boland do enough to you know knock the door down, but basically put holes in the door as well.
I mean,
Um,
it's a fair shout because, he's probably going to play, if not the whole series, he's probably going to play at least four of the games, I reckon. Most likely, depending on fitness of Cummins Hazelwood, if they rest Stark or anything like that.
yep.
He's probably going to play a fair chunk of the games, or more than people would have
Mhm.
probably predicted, maybe the one, two, or three at the most. He's probably going to be at least three, of my prediction. So, yeah, it's a fair shout. It's not as left field as my shout, though, which is ridiculous, but I have my reasons. I think the leading wicket taker in this Ashes series is going to be none other than our captain himself, Mr. Benjamin Andrew Stokes.
I thought you were going to say Joe Root for a moment there, and I realised he's not
I've
captain
got
anymore.
I've got my
Um,
reasons for Ben Stokes as being my shout for leading wicket taker. He was our leading wicket taker in the India series just gone. He got 17 wickets and only played four of the Test matches. He's picked up a six for, albeit against the Lions, but in the warm-up game in one innings, he's picked up a six for. I think the way he's bowling now, so long now this is a big caveat, so long as the fitness holds out and he's able to bowl, let alone play in 4 to 5 or hopefully all five of the games. But the bowling style he's possessed now and the extra pace he's added into his game since we were last over here in 21-22, I think he's got bowling technique which is pretty good for Australian conditions potentially.
mhm.
So yeah, it sounds like a left field shout, but when you put things into perspective, maybe you think, oh, maybe he's onto something. So yeah, my pick is genuinely Ben Stokes to be leading wicket taker this series. And now for the big one, everyone's all been waiting for. And um, just before I get onto it, don't forget, or remember to like and subscribe if you like this content and you want to see more of this because we've got an Ashes watch along coming on Saturday, people. So look forward to it. Yeah,
Hopefully
yeah.
hopefully just on that Chester, no sort of dodgy Aussie accents on.
No, no, no,
Uh,
no, no.
yeah, my English one, especially if we're talking about regional accents, isn't the best. But yeah, look, the watch along Saturday is going to be great, and we'll know sort of where things sort of sit after day one as well. But the final prediction,
Yeah, I mean
what
it's
were
the
you guys
big one,
get?
right? First, we'll
Mm.
start with you. Who's going to win the series, Ben? Or
Uh,
what I should say is because it could be a draw. What I should say is, what do you think the result of the series is going to be, Ben?
uh, well, knowing the Aussie conditions as I do, and I think I made mention of a famous Ashes test back in 1998 in Melbourne, where the entire first day was actually washed out completely, and England ended up winning. So, is that some sort of omen, depending on how the weather holds up? I'm hoping for my sake not, because I want to see some actual cricket by then. Um, I reckon. Uh, I think for one Australia, there may be a draw in there potentially.
How can it
Yep.
be 4-1 and a draw? You mean
Or
4-1 or
3
4-0?
3 or yeah, or 4-0 and a yeah.
Is that one you think the Perth test? Oh no, you said Australia are going to win the Perth test.
Yeah.
We'll skip over that and immediately just move on to my prediction for this. I mean, look, obviously I got to back my boys, and I obviously am going to say I think this is the year we're finally going to win again down under. I don't think we're going to like. I'd love to do like a reverse Glenn McGrath and go 5-0 England, but obviously I'm going to be realistic here. 4-0 no. I said to my dad, I think when I was talking to him, not that anyone who's watching this would know that because I was not recording that conversation, but I'm just putting it out there for perspective. I did say to him, I think there's going to be a result in all five games. I don't think there's going to be a draw. I could be wrong, but I just can't really see it happening. I
Really
think
depends on
England,
the
are,
weather.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think England are going to win this series 3-2. just going off the fact that I think there's going to be a result in all 5 games, I think England are going to win this series 3-2. We're finally going to get it done. It's going to be a close one. We're going to win at Perth. They're going to pull it back in the day night because forget about it with Mitchell Stark and the pink ball in his hand. Going to be 1-1. Then we go to the Gabba next. Australia usually do quite well against us at the Gabba. I think they might. I think we'll sneak it at the Gabba. They'll. No, I'm not going to make it that ridiculous. I think no. You know what? I think yeah, I think they'll win at the Gabba. I think then we're going to win at the MCG and we're going to wrap it up and win at Sydney from 2-1 down. That's my ridiculously bold prediction.
Okay.
Um, that's my ridiculously bold prediction, but yeah, that's what people tune into this stuff for, right? Ridiculously bold predictions. So yeah, that was just about wraps up our Ashes preview. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed it. Literally starts tomorrow. I cannot wait. Ben, can you?
No, I certainly can't wait. I'll be certainly tuning in um, to see what happens and look, I think it's going to be a really good series overall. Certainly looking to sort of dissecting it with you as we go along and the weeks roll on, and we've certainly got our watch along Saturday, and that's going to be a lot of fun, I think too.
Yeah, yeah. Look forward to that, people. The watch along is coming on Saturday. Um, Ben will probably put something out on Instagram Saturday morning because it will start around 1 or 1:30. But yeah, you'll put like a thing out on Instagram to let those people know, won't you, before we
Yeah,
go live? We'll be going live on YouTube. We've tested it, everyone. It works fine. I think we said it before. We'll say it one more time in this video, and we'll put posts up about this on the day as well, just before. But the plan is we're going to get live 1 or 1:30 if we're going off like Melbourne Sydney time, obviously in Australia. Um, Apologies to any other people around Australia and around the world. I'm not up to date with all the time zones and times and whatnot, but yeah, um,
I'm across that, so
yeah, okay,
certainly,
yeah. Ben will sort
yeah,
that out for you guys in the post. Don't worry. Um, but yeah, so yeah, we're going to go live for the beginning of the first session. We're going to stay live throughout the whole of the first session. We're going to have a break. We're going to turn the stream off throughout the lunch break, and then we're going to come back and do second and third session back to back, and the tea break within that included, all live, one big stream. So you have plenty of time to jump in and join us, or join us the whole time. But we will obviously be taking a break during that 40-minute or so lunch break between the first and second session. So if the stream goes off, or if you come in at that lunch break and you see we're not live, don't worry, we're just on the lunch break. We will be back at the beginning of the second session. So yeah, should be a great time. We're going to be here at mine and my partner's place, watching the whole day unfold. It will be day 2, of course, of the test. We weren't quite able to get day 1 tomorrow because Ben's a bit busy, but that's fine. We're still going to be there for day 2 with the day 2 watch along for you guys. So hopefully you can tune in. Obviously, it'd be great to get some people in there, getting the chat, so we can actually talk to some people. It's our first time live streaming, so we'd love to do some of that. Got to do something, obviously, how to keep you guys entertained for basically an entire day's worth of Test cricket. Some people just live stream short football matches that last 90 odd minutes. No, fuck that. We're doing a whole 3 sessions and a whole day of Test match cricket is what we're doing, people. So buckle in.
yeah. hmm
So yeah, we'll be back on Saturday in 2 days' time for that. So stay tuned for that, people. But yeah, in the meantime, like always, we hope you enjoyed this video. We got plenty more cricket content coming with the summer just beginning of cricket over here, the monster summer. So yeah, take care, peace out, see you later, guys, and we'll be back on Saturday with the live stream. Take care, see ya,
Take
bye,
care, guys.
bye.